Hello and welcome to the 38th episode of Tailoring in Conversation. My name is Reza, and in this series I'll be talking to tailors, business owners, cloth merchants and other industry participants from all around the globe to gain a better insight into their worlds. My guest for today is Simon Martelo. Simon is the director, founder and cutter of Martelo Bespoke, based in Bogota, Colombia. In our conversation today, we're going to be talking about the Colombian tailoring scene, conversations to have with your customers, the benefits of trunk shows, and much more. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, Simon, thank you very much for being with me today. You're in your studio in Colombia. I've never spoken to a tailor from Colombia. So let's start first of all. How are you doing, and what's the day looking for you?
Reza, hey, thank you very much for your interest. Thank you very much for your interest in us. So doing good, very busy. The year got off to a fantastic start. So surprisingly enough, the past year and a half has been the busiest. A lot of people, when I meet them on the street and they know I'm a tailor, they think like, "Oh, Simon, how's it going? Like, ooh, it must be tough. Like, home office, this and that." I was like, "Wow, well, yeah, I don't know. It's busier than ever." So we're actually at capacity. We're at capacity.
So how is your shop looking like? How many tailors do you have? Who are the cutters? And because I know you cut, but do you have other cutters as well?
Yeah. No. So it's I cut, and then there's a workshop assistant, or in England, I guess you call him trimmer, right? So he helps me with all of that. Yeah. And then there are 4 jacket makers, 4 builders. There is 1 trouser maker. There is 1 shirt maker. There is my assistant, my personal assistant, that she does all the administration's work and invoicing and takes care of all the clients. She's been with me for forever, for about 8 years now. And right now I have a social media assistant or intern that's helping me with that, because I'm really, really bad at keeping up with social media. So somebody is doing that for me.
I see. Well, why don't we start by opening the topic of tailoring in Colombia? I'd like to get a good sense of what tailoring in Colombia is like. How would you lay the groundwork for us?
So tailoring in Colombia, yes, because Colombia is not known for tailoring. So yeah, it's quite different. I'll lay down the context first.
Sure.
So the context is, especially of where I'm at, which is Bogota, which is the capital city. So Bogota is a big city. Bogota, we're 9 million people and has always been a big city. Bogota is up in the mountains. It's 2,600 meters above sea level. So it's chilly. We're on the equator, so we have no seasons. So the best way to describe it is an eternal autumn.
Right.
Here. So the weather has a broad range, but it's never extreme.
Okay.
So we can range in a day from 6 and 7 degrees to 24 degrees. And it can rain and be sunny on the same day, but it's never extreme. It's never very cold, it never snows, and it's never very hot, it's never Miami.
Right.
So it's a fantastic city for being elegant. It is a great city for being elegant. Flannel and tweed and that sort of like hardy, beautiful cloth you can wear year round. And it's grayish, so you can wear the dark, elegant, beautiful colors. Therefore, it is a very elegant city. And historically, it was insanely elegant. Like looking 30, 50, 60 years back, pictures of my grandparents, pictures in the newspaper. Everybody was very well dressed, beautifully made ties, bespoke suits. So it was a very elegant place. especially because it's the business and political capital of the country as well. This is where
I see.
most of business is being done. Other big cities are very warm.
Mm-hmm.
The other big cities in Colombia are very warm. They again have no seasons, so they're warm year round, and they are they're very casual, very very casual.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the context. Second part of the context is Colombia didn't do a lot of international commerce up to the 1990s.
Right.
Right. So most of the stuff people bought was made locally. And it wasn't an industrialized nation. So there were a lot of tailors, like just a massive amount of tailors. I wasn't there to see it, but this is what my master taught me. He used to reminisce with me about the old days of tailoring all the time. Mind you, he's 83, 84 years old, right? So he saw all of this. That's when he came up. He started when he was 14. Right. So there were buildings. Imagine this, entire buildings in the center part of town where tailors used to rent a little corner for them to go and work. They didn't rent an entire office. So you were a tailor, and then there was the shop. So you went to the shop to pick up work, right? I'm talking about builders, right?
Yeah.
Everything got cut inside, and then you went there, you picked up your bundles, and then you took it to this building where you had rented like this little space where you had your work table and your sewing machine, this and that, and then you built out of there.
I see.
And entire buildings, boom, 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 just like not all over town, all over the city center. So a lot of tailoring, a lot of talent. There used to be a lot of tailoring and a lot of talent. So it was huge. Right now, I mean, even a fraction would be overstating it. I mean, there's nothing left of that. There's just very, very little left of that.
Is it because of the international commerce that Colombia started doing?
Yes, that is why. And because in Colombia, sadly, there is a mentality that anything that comes from abroad is better than anything that's local.
I see.
That's the mentality, and it's sort of weird. I mean, Reza, I'll tell you this, you probably wouldn't even be able to wrap your hand around what I'm going to tell you. But so when things started to come in, people valued them more, so paid for them more. So in Colombia, when somebody's walking into a tailor shop, their expectation is this is going to cost me less than our money. Right. It would be insane for somebody in England to be walking into Savile Row thinking, okay, I'm going to spend less than if I were at Armani or Prada or whatever.
Yeah.
So the entire situation in Colombia sort of lent itself for the trade to diminish almost to nothing. So what happened is tailors were sort of looked down upon, right? Clients didn't want to pay. Tailors disliked their clients because they looked down upon them and they were disrespectful and they didn't want to pay a lot and that sort of situation. So the whole thing sort of escalated down because then tailors started to find shortcuts to make things cheaper. So in the 1980s, when fusibles were invented, they started fusing their suits, right? They started passing off made-to-measure as bespoke, so the whole thing now wasn't as crafty, as beautiful, and then clients started paying even less, and now we have what we have, which is just like very few tailors.
Yeah. So which country influenced Colombia most in terms of tailoring?
All right. So in terms of style, England, which is the one that influenced us all, of course.
Okay.
So in terms of style, since we're cachacos, which is how you call the people from Bogota, which were the most elegant, were highly influenced by England. So as I said, I mean, the thing is like British cloth or British inspired cloth, because we used to make cloth in Colombia. That was amazing. It was really good cloth. Was sort of like that heavy, tweedy, flannelly sort of situation. That was like the most Bogotano thing or the most cachaco thing. But since tailors weren't highly educated, they only spoke Spanish. What they learned was Spanish tailoring. There is a book called Rocosa. That's the school of tailoring that influenced Colombia the most. It's called Rocosa. And it was a book that arrived in Colombia and got passed down to tailors, and they read that book and they learned that method. So I don't know the origins of Rocosa, but I know that when you speak to most of the people who are still alive today, they of course remember that book, or they have a copy of that book. I'm trying to get one myself. I have a photocopy, and it's missing some pages. It's this thick, because it covers everything: raglan sleeves, it covers shooting jackets, safari jackets. It covers the whole spectrum.
What is the characteristic about that school of tailoring?
Well, actually, since it covers everything, I wouldn't say that there's a big characteristic of it, because it covers with side body or without side body, with darts or without darts. So that the whole thing is there.
I see.
So it is sort of like some schools of tailoring, like for example Florence, that does the no dart, no side body thing, and just that. The book had a little. There is one thing that I've seen that I found a little bit particular, which is that you'll understand this. We're gonna nerd it out a little bit because we're gonna get this, but this is particular. Okay, so usually the back and also the front, what I've seen, well, it's cut on 3 horizontal lines, which is like the bottom part of the jacket, the waistline, and then the neck, right? And they're all, the 3 of them are absolutely horizontal. Not in Rocosa. 2 are horizontal, and the neckline is a little bit crooked. They say to account that we're not straight here, but that we lean forward.
I see.
That's a little bit different. And then in the front panel, the 2 bottom are horizontal, right? So the length of the jacket and then the waistline, but then the chest line is also crooked, but to the other side, to account supposedly because this isn't straight, right?
Yes.
Here isn't straight. So they lean that back. So it leans back here and it leans front here. In the end, there's just different ways to arrive at the same thing. I mean, you need to have this point and this point correct. I mean, different ways to arrive at the same thing.
I see.
So after that, so like Rocosa, most people read that book, and the thing is, like, after that, it was just all very independent. Since there are no Savile Row established names that have a distinctive traditional cut, people were mostly doing their interpretation of tailoring, of going about it. So
I see.
So it's very interesting how that's different. Here, it's sort of like super messy. Like I talked to 2 of my builders know how to cut. So we discuss a lot, and they tell me, oh yeah, I learned a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and then a friend of mine told me, why don't you do this? And now they have like their own thing, very much their own thing. In England, you see that many cutters follow very strictly, not only to, of course, to the house where they work in the moment they're working there, but even when they leave, they change some things, but they stay pretty true.
Yes, that's correct. Do you find it beneficial having tailors who know how to cut?
Yes, of course. Because out of fitting, sometimes I don't know what to do. Sometimes I look at something, I see that it's off. I'm not entirely sure what's the best way to go about it. So I just look at it. I make sure I memorize it correctly. If need be, a picture or video, tailoring in the 21st century.
Absolutely.
Right. And then client leaves. I sleep on it. And then when the builder comes, I talk to him, and we do like this little round table discussion about like, hey, how do we go about this? Is it a build problem? Is it a cut problem? Can we fix this on this jacket, or since it's already built, do we have to just go back to the paper pattern? It sort of depends. And in the beginning, my master told me this. He told me like, look, first you got to do exactly what I tell you. And do that do that just a lot, and then you will find yourself changing it, and feel free when you start to understand the whole thing conceptually a lot better. Now you can start to change it, because you know that if you move this, you're going to have to move this as well. It's sort of like a trying thing, but that's a difficult thing about tailoring, that one thing just like moves everything.
True. It's very connected, interdependent.
Oh, I see. So like you just say, oh, okay, so I want to cut like a drape your chest, and then you just think, oh yeah, I'm just going to give it more drape here, and that's that. No, boom, the whole thing now. Suddenly you have a wrinkle in the other side of the jacket, and it's related.
This is very interesting, because before we started the interview, you mentioned that you started your tailoring shop from an entrepreneur's perspective. So it wasn't that you were a trained cutter and then you decided to set up a company. You set up a company and then you developed yourself as a cutter. So I think this is very interesting, because most of the time people are cutters or tailors first, and then they get fed up with their boss and they say, okay, I'm going to start my own company. Now, it seems to me that what you're saying is you're very comfortable with your tailors knowing how to cut, whereas perhaps if you were originally a trained cutter, you wouldn't want your tailors to know how to cut, because they may, mess around with your cutting. How are you experiencing that? Because it sounds like better collaboration, if you would ask me. But how are you experiencing that?
Well, so there are certain things that I do want tailors not to touch, because while it's amazing that we can sort of round table and make decisions about certain things, and I can take their input, and of course, in the end, it's my decision, there are very big stylistic differences.
I see. Okay, tell me about it.
So, if they were to cut me a jacket, for example, or it would be something very old school, just like very old school. The length, the shoulder width, the padding, the whole thing. It would be very, very different to what I like to wear and to what I like to produce for my clients, right? To what I sort of deemed my house style. So many times their recommendations, for example, are made with that style in mind, because that's what they're used to achieving, sort of, right? So what's important is for them to understand that what we're trying to achieve is my house style, right? So that's important. So I don't want them to take the freedom to see a jacket and go like, oh, this is very lightly padded. This doesn't look right, because in their mind it needs to be more padded, but not where I'm standing, right?
I see.
So there has to be a sort of limit to that, in which I like that we engage in conversation, and that I get to take in their opinions. But in the end, the style that we're trying to, the style that we're putting forward to our clients must prevail.
That makes sense. So if I would be a student in Colombia and I wanted to learn tailoring, what options do I have to learn tailoring? I mean, I can imagine it's already difficult to learn. Not zero.
Zero. I mean, look, none of my builders want to teach, right?
Why is that? Why is that?
They say I don't have the patience. I don't care about it. Oh, yeah, but there's one more thing. There's a very important thing. I will mention this in a second. Don't let me forget. But yeah, right now, Don Enrique, he told me specifically, you're the last one. And I know that there's some kids around that have been trying to, and from what I gather, they've been turned down by most, if not all, tailors. but we are trying to do something about that. We're in conversations with a couple of schools, and we are trying to do something about that because, unfortunately, as we talked before, there is some knowledge on the internet, but as you said, it's all in English, and none of them speak English. So we are trying to do something about that. The project that you mentioned sounds absurdly fantastic. I hope to be able to take advantage of that beautiful project anytime in the future. And as I've said to my builders, I think I reached them a little bit with this that I said, because they were very reluctant, but I told them, like, look, guys, tailoring has given you everything you have in life. If there is one person that has the intention to learn this, I really believe you have the responsibility to pass it forward. I think I reached a little bit, maybe. I think I opened the door for that possibility. Especially because if not, then I'm out of tailors in a couple of years.
So are there schools that can teach tailoring, like fashion schools that could incorporate a tailoring course perhaps by employing a tailor who is willing to teach?
The people that I'm talking about is arts and crafts schools. I don't want to get involved with the fashion schools. I'd rather do it through the arts and crafts. So there's two beautiful arts and crafts schools that teach woodwork and teach knitting and teach that sort of skills. And I'm trying to present to them the idea that this would be a wonderful thing, especially because if I support it, I can guarantee that those kids have work as done. I can guarantee the teaching. I can guarantee a whole bunch of stuff. And that is something that I'm trying to do. But the point that I wanted to make, and this is very important. Tailors in Colombia were looked down upon by society, including their clients.
Why is that?
Because of classism. And so one tailor who did very well for himself told me, I started noticing that the moment I started going to the same restaurants as my clients, they did not like that. They ignored me at the restaurants, for example, that sort of situation. So you have to understand that a lot of these tailors worked so hard so that their kids didn't have to become tailors.
Yeah, that's insane, man.
That broke the chain. You ask any tailor, and they were like, I didn't want my kids to be tailors. That's why I was working so hard, so that they could go to college and be doctors and lawyers, right? So that broke the whole chain of knowledge.
I have thought about that. You know, one of the things we like as people is to have a work or a job or a career that gives us dignity and gives us a good, good amount of prestige in society. And I don't know how tailors can create that for themselves. I mean, like you say, per country is different. I mean, usually when I say I'm a tailor in London, I get positive reactions. When I say I'm a tailor in Iran, where I'm originally from, they laugh at me. So, and it seems to be like a similar scenario in Colombia, and it's unfortunate. But how do you think that tailors can redefine their job or their position in society so that they feel very proud of the fact that they are tailors?
I think it's already changed, honestly. I think it's already changed because I think craft-related jobs are now very much admired. I think it's a beautiful profession where it actually brings meaning to your life. That's something that I talk to with a lot of people, that it's a profession where you get to be in contact with beautiful stuff constantly. And it's a skill that you hone, a very difficult one, that you hone in time, that you learn until you die. I mean, my master still works. He's 84 and he says, I'm dying right here. And every day I'm learning things and new ways to do things. So I think that's already sort of shifted. Like, the world has sort of a newfound admiration for these jobs. And there's more information out there about how beautiful it is. And it's presented in ways where it's not enhanced. I wouldn't say enhanced. I'd say that it's presented in ways that, show and reflect the beauty of the work itself. And tailors have definitely a new light, or definitely a new image with society. So I think that's sort of already changed. The other thing is, the other thing that I believe, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm proving wrong, but towards the future, I believe even more so, because as most people think that this is something that might be bound to disappear, I tend to differ. And I think this is actually the future of work. I believe the future of work is a redefinition of productivity and a redefinition of vocation, vocación, a redefinition of that, when most of the jobs that can be automated will, and the jobs that can't will not. Now, how much bespoke tailoring can or cannot be automated is an open conversation. If an AI will be developed to automate bespoke tailors out of work, I don't know if it's possible or not. Regardless, I think that these sort of jobs will be the future, not because in the end, these jobs are not meaningful only in a market, like making sense of them from a market perspective, i.e., if they are needed or not, but because the person who does the work needs it, because it brings meaning to their life. I want to do this regardless of if there's a market for it or not. Now, whether there's a market for it or not will determine whether I get to do it for long. But I want to do this. It comes out of me, and it's not only that the world needs it, and I'm even reluctant to do it, but I do it for the paycheck. No, I want to do this. This brings meaning to my life. This makes me grow as a human person. This keeps me creative. Even if I weren't paid for it, I'd want to do that. So it's a whole different sort of job. I believe jobs like this are going to be very relevant, and that's why I think that the whole image of tailors is sort of changing.
Very well said. I mean, we all know that at some point, as it's already happening, a lot of manufacturing of general clothing is going to be improved as well in terms of fit and customization and all of that. And at some point, I wouldn't be surprised if some random shirt company can create better patterns with their AI than a well-seasoned bespoke tailor. But I think, like what you said, is that will just shift the meaning of being a tailor more on the interpersonal relationship side than just the craft. What do you think of that?
I mean, it's great that you touched upon that, because as I've gotten better through cutting, and for example, I have to focus my energy less on that part of my job, I've been able to open up and try to explore a big question for me, which is, okay, what is the non-tailoring side of my job as a cutter? Is being
That's
there
a good question.
Right? Which is, I mean, what is the non-tailoring side of my job? Because I believe it's a huge side. I believe that many of my clients come to me and they're not even concerned with my cutting skills. It's much more about that meeting with me at my desk and what I can do for them from that perspective. So that side of the job is, even if you ask me, much more difficult to automate, because it's about a connection, it's about a relationship, it's about as I said, it's like, I don't like to think of myself as a suit shop. If you need a suit for a wedding, go someplace else, dude. I mean, it's not worth it. It's 3 fittings and a lot of time and a lot of headaches. Dude, go to Suit Supply.
Yeah.
Right? They'll take care of you just fine right there. I mean, I like to, when I'm doing my best work, it was somebody that wants to have a tailor. That's a different thing.
I guess that's how a client influences the tailor as well. They want the tailor, not the suit.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very different when somebody comes here and they go, it's like, I need a suit. And it's very different when somebody comes here and says that I've been thinking about having a tailor. Or changing or something like that. So it's very different, and I believe that's when I do my best work, when it's over time. We're thinking about things from that perspective, more holistic. And I get to know them, and I get to know who they are, and I get to know how they live their life. I get to know what they're about, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to get done in life, what they find valuable, and then I get to put that through my lens. And I get to use my knowledge and the skills that I've honed in order to create things for them that I intuit will fit seamlessly into their lives. You know, it'll be something like this is me. This works for me. It's I'm at ease. I can do my life correctly in this.
Well, one of the things you mentioned, I think it was either in one of the interviews you did or it was on your website. I can't remember, but it was like something along the lines of I measure personality. So what I want to ask you is that's a very difficult part of the tailor's job, and when you are in conversation with a customer, how do you gauge their personality and what style suits them and what fabrics to choose, and how do you bring all of that together, and what sort of skills do you think one needs to be able to extract their personality and translate that into a garment, let's say?
Okay, so it's a work in progress, of course. Is like I find myself, this is not something you learn. So when you're learning cutting or building, as you know, you learn one side of the business, which is the make side. Now, the dealing with client side is a whole nother thing that to a certain extent can't be taught. So dealing with clients one-to-one like that is a whole thing. So there's something that just works for me the most, and it's like the space and time to really be with them. I've experienced this to a whole new level in trunk shows, because when I'm in a trunk show, I'm not cutting. I'm just waiting for you to come in. You're my client. Right. I'm just waiting for you to come in. And when you're coming in, I'm doing nothing else. I'm here for you completely. In my office is a little bit difficult because I'm in the middle of cutting a suit and you come in and blah, 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 so I have to like really take a breath and land so that I can be present, fully present for you. Because if you ask me, you got to listen to them beyond their words. None of what you're going to talk about in that meeting is easily expressed through words. There's a lot of nuance and a lot of stuff that is just like hidden in between the lines about who you are and what you like and don't like, and how much are you open to trying something new that he will not be able to express, right? So you got to read beyond his words and listen to him beyond his words. And for that, you have to be fully present to the nuances of the conversation. And then you can grasp a sense of how best to steer him in the infinite world of cloth, cuts, sizes of pockets, sizes of lapels, this and that. There are some specifics, like clients that go like, oh, Simon, I want like a big fuck you lapel like that, blah, blah, blah. And then you know that you got to cut that and that's that. Right? But but there are more subtle things to understanding what sort of style he wants. Does he want something that is very rugged, very old school? Does he want something that is very Ivy, very traditional? Does he want to stand out? Does he want to blend in? He's not going to tell you like, look, Simon, I like blending in. I mean, that's not something that you express. That's something that you sense from what he's telling you, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Being present in the conversation with him and trying to read him, I believe is super important. And for that, time and space are key. No interruptions. I love that about doing trunk shows. It was a very pleasant surprise because I had never experienced that. But how is it to have 2 days where the only thing I do is see the client in front of me one-on-one? And all of the other things, cutting and paying taxes, and that's all in Bogota. That's all in Bogota. I'm here, and it's quite powerful.
How much do you listen to what your customer wants in terms of style, and how much do you guide them and tell them like, look, you need to have this. I know you want some other stuff, but I don't think this is a good idea. This is what you need to have. How much of that do you kind of like play around with?
It doesn't happen a lot where I have to sort of like push back. So let's say like this. My style, my style is well. I've actually written a little article about it. I call it subtle. That's sort of like what I like to cut it. You notice it because there's nothing to notice about it. That's the way right? So it's not very theatrical. It doesn't stand out a lot. It's not just so that you can get a sense. It's not shamat, which is very theatrical, very flamboyant, or it's not chiffonelli, which is that, which I respect tremendously. Of course, I respect tremendously. It's just not my thing. And the most people that come here really like that. They're for that, right? Most people that go to a tailor don't want things too tapered anyways. If you're looking for a tailor, you're, for the most part, you're not looking for skinny fit. It's been not very often that somebody has asked me to like taper something more. And at that point, what I say is like, I wouldn't recommend it. I justify my reasoning, right? I wouldn't because of this and this and this. If you wanted more tapered though, we could do it. And now that he knows sort of like the consequences, you will be less comfortable. You're less likely to button up your jacket. It'll probably have a wrinkle at the front, that sort of thing. Now, the other side of it is the constraints of my style based on what I can do, right? Based on what I can do. If somebody comes and says like, Simon, cut me a huntsman jacket, I go like, well, I haven't worked in huntsman. I don't know how that's cut. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I would explain to him is like, you probably think this is just like, all right, now I know how it is because I saw that it has more padding, but there's so much into it that it's not that easy. So it probably will not come out correct. So let's not do that. Being able to say no is a good skill to hone. Knowing what to say no, but not because no, I don't want to. No, it's best we don't do this. Yeah, it is best we. Or you can be open to experiment. I've done that with clients. It's like, I don't know how to do this. I want to experiment. I want to learn. I mean, if you're willing to be guinea pig here, I'm down. Right. So that's a possibility. And the other thing is like sort of three perspectives that you present to a client. Let's just say there's sort of three. So one is what I do or what I like, right? And that's about fun as well. It's like, hey, look, as Simon, this is what I like and this is done.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is my interpretation of what you like, right? So, and I think that you like this, and the other one is what I think is best for you, which is a different one. Sounds the same, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's a different one.
Yeah.
So this is what I like. This is what I interpret that you like, and this is what I think is best for you, right? And presenting those three perspectives is usually also very good, and it brings the conversation forward.
Yes, yes, I can imagine. Forward.
The other thing is I don't like to overwhelm clients with choice. It can happen a lot in Bespoke, you know.
Yeah,
it can happen a lot in Bespoke, right? So, again, a good conversation in the beginning will give me a great sense of what to present to them, right? Because maybe somebody would say like, "Oh no, it's your responsibility to present all the options to your client," or something like that. I don't believe it is, because I think they'll get overwhelmed if they say I want a blue suit and I show them all my blue cloth, they'll go crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So I get a sense of weight. I get a sense of what are you going to use it for, how, that sort of thing. And I come with 2 or 3 books tops.
Yeah.
You know, hey, let's look at this. And then if the conversation is moving forward that I need to bring something else, then I bring something else, of course. But there's no point in me presenting 150 types of blue and just going like, all right, sir, pick from there.
Yeah. One of the things I really hated was to place a client in front of the bunches and then just take bunches one by one and then open a flip through them. Oh my God, it's such a dreadful process. So I align with what you say with, yeah.
It's impossible. Even with patterns, even when it's not something as simple as a blue, I'm not going to show him all the patterns. I go like, all right, so from this conversation, why don't we look at these? And then you see how he reacts, and then you narrow it down. He doesn't need to look at all the bunches for him to have made a great decision.
Yeah.
Especially because it brings me to one of the most difficult aspects. This is definitely the most difficult aspect of Bespoke, and it's getting him to take the leap of buying a very expensive garment out of a piece of cloth that's this big.
Yeah.
And I've been having some conversations with colleagues about, so you have to make a lot of samples and this and that. I differ, and I respect that perspective. But for me, this is the opportunity for you to use your imagination.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
This is the opportunity. I tell my clients, I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but if you like that cloth this big, you'll love it when it's a jacket.
Yes, yeah.
It will surprise you positively. If you like it like this, I mean, it has rarely or ever, it has never happened to me that nobody's like more pleasantly surprised, like, wow.
Yeah.
Now that I see it big, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So I like that. It's not about making an infinite number of samples. Those samples are, of course, nice. It's not about that. It's about getting them to be comfortable with that decision. You know, trust it. You know, trust it. It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
If they're too hesitant, also reading that, no, you're not going to like this. I don't think you're going to like this. Let's look at something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, being there for him.
Well, you talked very positively about trunk shows, and you see a lot of benefit in doing trunk shows because it allows you to connect with your customers, because you don't need to think about anything else but about them in the present moment. Now, I was talking to one of my friends, and he said he has a workshop at home. And he said, it's very difficult for me to convince someone that, hey, I have a workshop at home. If you pay me, X amount of money, I promise you to go back home, take that money, make something nice for you, and see you in like 3 months. And that's especially the case when you are starting out as a tailor. But when you're a company, you probably can create more trust because you're well established and all of that. How do you see trunk shows as being off location create probably closeness to your company that is in Colombia? Because you do trunk shows in America. You go
New
to
York.
New York. New York. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how do people connect to the Martelo workshop in Bogota when they are in New York? How do you process that?
Mm-hmm. So this is how I imagine it happens because I've been doing this for 4 months. Okay,
Right.
so this is how
sure.
I imagine that it happens, and it's word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Most of the people who are going to show up is because they know somebody that already went through this with you.
Oh, I see.
So my local clientele. So my local clientele I've built over the past 11 years through exclusively word of mouth. I had no other. My marketing strategy was my product. I said that from the beginning. That's my marketing strategy. Getting someone through the threshold that they like something so much that they're willing to talk about it is not an easy thing. You can like something, but that you're willing to talk about it to someone and go like, oh yeah, you got to go see my guy or something like that. It's not an easy thing. And I always understood that there was a beautiful thing, like a beautiful circular sort of thing in having your marketing strategy be your product, because your product is going to be the best that it can be, and it's going to be the best for the client. And then everyone's incentives are sort of aligned. And then he is sort of romantic in a way, but and then he will gladly recommend you. He is invested in your well-being as a business, as a tailor, as a person as well. So I like that. Having that is like my strategy is my product, my marketing strategy is my product is a beautiful thing. And that then sort of eliminates the trust thing, because if your friend, if your father, if your whatever told you about this place and you trust him, you're like, all right.
Yes,
all right,
yes.
Check him out I'll check him out for sure. Now, New York, we will see. It's definitely a new challenge. I mean, I got myself into a big mess because I have already a big established clientele here, so much so that I'm at capacity. We don't take new clients in Colombia. We don't take new clients in Colombia.
Wow.
As soon as that happened, I go like, all right, let's go open a new market from scratch.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it is going to take a while to develop, because I'm open to doing other things if I believe they're beautiful and worth it. Either events or this and that. I don't know. I'm not closed off to the idea, but still I understand that the core of everything will always be word of mouth. And that it takes a long time. That takes a long time.
Yeah.
That
It's a very interesting thing.
Patience.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah. You got to get through the threshold of somebody trusting you to make an expensive product in a period of 3 months, and that you are actually going to come back, and that it's going to be good enough, and that sort of situation. And that, in a way, if I'm telling you, let's build a relationship, that I'm going to honor that, and then I'm going to continue to come 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 12 years from now. Simon Crompton from Permanent Style wrote about this when he wrote about trunk shows. Is that, are you going to see it through? Most trunk shows do it for a year and they don't do it anymore. So are you invested in it for the long term? The one thing that you need to consider if you're going to start doing trunk shows. Are you?
Yeah. Are your current clients all from Colombia, the ones that are in Colombia that are visiting your shop?
No.
You have international clients visiting you as well?
A lot. I have clients that come to Colombia for fittings.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. Yeah.
It's like, Simon, let me know when the fitting's ready and I'll book a flight. And they do a weekend out of it, of course. So yeah, I have that as well. I have clients who are, of course, embassy guys. This is capital city, so I have a lot of embassy clients. I have PATs. And I would say, honestly, that my client base locally is still like 50-50. 50% local, 50% foreigners.
Right.
Yeah.
I see. So, can you tell us a little bit about how one starts a tailoring company without being a tailor, and then shifts into being a cutter? I think that's a very interesting part.
So as I was telling you, it all begins from a very young age. I was very obsessed with suits. I loved suits and like watching them in movies and stuff. I was just like super obsessed. And so I liked tailoring. I started going to the tailor when I was like 16 years old, and I loved the whole thing. And then I went, I failed business school here in Colombia, and I hated it. And then I just left, and I decided to go to Italy, study fashion business, which I hated. Again, as I told you, because it's all just marketing schemes, and that I believe were borderline immoral into manipulating people into buying stuff. And I felt very uncomfortable. And in this thing that I already loved, I found the opposite to manipulation and marketing schemes. I found a product that has tangible quality. I found a product that has value. I found a product that right now I'm understanding to be very sustainable. And a business model that can be very sustainable as well. So I found quite the opposite of what the entire garment and fashion industry is about. And I loved it even more now. And it was clear to me, boom, I was at dinner with a friend, and I remember I told her, I was like, I know that I want to have a tailor shop at some point. But I wasn't the son of a tailor, as it happens. And as I told you, it's not easy to get apprenticeships here in Colombia. So that was my journey. So when I was ready to pull the trigger, I interviewed some people, and I found a cutter and builder who were willing to work with me and to start. And then we started from there. And at one point I decided that wasn't enough. I wanted to be involved in the process. And there are two people in this job to who I owe everything to. One, his name is Chucho Valencia, very important tailor here in Colombia. And I was talking to him because I wanted to get connected in the tailoring world. So I talked to many different people. So I was talking to him, and then I told him about some of the difficulties, making myself understood to the cutter and this and that. And he told me, like, look, Simon, you're going to have to learn cutting if you're serious about this business, even if you're not going to cut. Even if for communication's sake, so that you can communicate with your tailors. You're going to learn how to learn. He told me that. And that shifted my perspective completely. And that opened me to the idea of actually learning how to cut. And then that second conversation was when I went and talked to Don Enrique, who's the person who actually decided to mentor me. And I told Don Enrique, I've been thinking about learning how to cut. What do you think? And he not only told me what he thought, but he told me, like, Simon, if you really want this, I'll do it and I'll teach you. So that's how it happened. And he told me that on a Friday afternoon, and I started on a Monday morning. I went back Saturday. I told him I'm serious, and he told me, all right, Monday morning you're here, and then you're spending all your mornings with me. And that's how that happened. And just it was a complete shift that happened sort of like naturally by a little bit listening to your intuition of what's next, of what do I have to do this. Having conversations with a lot of people with more experience, that helps, right? That they're invested in your well-being and that you can trust, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Simon, I'd like to do a speed round with you. I have a bunch of words, You tell me in one word the first thing that pops up your mind, and we'll see how that develops. So, you ready?
Okay, we'll see. Okay, let's do it.
Entrepreneur.
Phony.
Most influential person.
Elon Musk.
All right. Biggest source of inspiration.
Movies.
British tailoring.
Anderson Shepherd.
Rocosa.
Spain.
Arts and crafts.
The future.
Future. Demanding customers.
Annoying.
Top 3 international tailors.
Thomas Mayon, Stephen Hitchcock, and Michael Brown.
All right. Most difficult thing in business.
Clients.
Clients. Interesting. Last but not least, Martelo Bespoke.
Passion.
Passion. All right. Well, thank you very much. This was a fantastic conversation.
No, thank you, man. Really, really nice. Thank you so much for your interest.
Yes, this was great. Thank you, Simon. And that was Simon. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. And if you have any thoughts, comments, or anything you'd like to share, please let us know in the comment section of this video. If you'd like to see more of Simon or you'd like to get in touch with him, please follow the links in the description of this video to his Instagram and website. Until the next time, bye-bye.